Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that's, well, it's really buzzing in certain circles, exosomes.
It definitely is. Lots of scientific potential there.
Right, potential, but also, a lot of commercial hype and some pretty serious safety questions swirling around.
Exactly.
So our mission today, drawing a lot from Professor Lin's recent work on this, is to try and cut through some of that noise. We want to understand the real science and help you think critically about what's being marketed out there.
Precisely. We'll look at what exosomes actually are,
Mhm.
scientifically speaking, and contrast that with the, let's say, sometimes overblown claims.
Okay.
And we need to talk about the regulations or maybe the lack thereof, the risks involved, and why we're seeing this kind of, well, chaos, as Professor Lin puts it, especially in aesthetics. We'll try to make the science accessible.
Great. So let's start right there. What exactly are exosomes? I've heard them called secreted bodies.
Yeah, that's a decent starting point. Think of them as tiny little packages, um, vesicles that are formed inside our cells and then released.
Like little mail carriers?
Sort of, yeah. They're packed with all sorts of molecular cargo DNA, RNA, proteins, growth factors, even hormones.
Okay.
And the really crucial part is they have their own membrane, which lets them fuse with other cells and deliver that cargo, those messages.
Ah, so they can actually interact directly with other cells.
Exactly. That's why they're sometimes called mini cells, and why some people, see them as a potential alternative to things like stem cell therapy. It's delivering therapeutic components without the whole living cell. There was a paper in 2021, The Exosome Journey, that touched on this potential.
Right, and here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit concerning. This genuine scientific potential seems to have been jumped on, like, really quickly,
Way too quickly in many cases.
especially in the cosmetic and medical aesthetic fields. It feels like a huge myth has been built around their immediate use when the science is still pretty early stage, right?
That's the absolute core of the problem. Despite all the marketing, exosome therapies are still very much experimental.
So we're in something, okay.
The U.S. FDA, for instance, put out a consumer alert, updated just this April, warning people about exactly this. They flagged the misleading online info, the lack of proof for safety or efficacy,
And the risks.
and the potentially significant safety risks. It's a strong warning, and it's not just a U.S. thing.
No, absolutely not. And bringing it closer to, say, Taiwan, we see what Professor Lin calls that chaos playing out. There were Ministry of Health warnings just this August,
Right. I saw those reports.
stating very clearly no exosome products are approved for therapy. And they're bringing in new laws, the regenerative medicine dual laws, from January 2026.
With hefty penalties, I heard.
Huge penalties, up to 20 million NTD for illegal advertising or procedures. And they specifically mentioned serious risks like bacteremia.
Bloodstream infections?
Yes, bacteremia, and potentially even death. These aren't trivial side effects we're talking about.
But here's the kicker. Some clinics and even a health info website, HEHO, seem to react by doubling down.
He's kidding. No. Amplifying their claims, sometimes even falsely implying they had official approval. It's like they saw the crackdown as a weird marketing angle.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
bold and deeply concerning.
Mm.
So why is this happening? I mean, obviously profit is a factor.
A big one, presumably.
No doubt.
Hmm.
But we also can't ignore how incredibly difficult these things are to regulate properly. Professor Li Changxi wrote about this, the regulation of exosomes as biological medicines.
What makes them so hard to regulate?
Well, think about it. They work through complex intracellular mechanisms inside cells, and they can be produced in lots of different ways. This creates a really fragmented picture for regulators worldwide.
So it's hard to set universal standards.
Exactly. Proving safety, proving efficacy, even just defining the precise molecular makeup and how the body processes them, the pharmacokinetics. It's a massive scientific and regulatory challenge.
Right, so that complexity, that fragmentation, it creates loopholes.
Precisely. It fuels this sort of cat and mouse game between some clinics trying to push the boundaries and the regulators trying to catch up, while the public is caught in the middle, often relying on, well, misleading information.
So what does this all mean for you listening? You might be hearing about this amazing cutting-edge science.
Yeah, but the reality on the ground, especially for aesthetic treatments right now, is much more complicated and potentially risky than the marketing suggests.
Yeah.
So the critical takeaway has to be, exosomes hold real future promise, no doubt about that. For drug delivery, maybe regenerative medicine down the line, but their widespread current use in aesthetics It's largely unproven, often unregulated, and it carries real risks that aren't always communicated.
It really hammers home the need for critical thinking, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So we really encourage you always question the grand claims, dig deeper, look for solid evidence, especially when it's about your health and new treatments. Which leaves us with a final thought. Given this exciting potential on one hand and these serious safety and regulatory gaps on the other, how do you navigate this explosion of information and marketing around new health tech? Something to think about.